Hey, it's Carrie.
And Ashley.
We welcome you to the Self-Care Cafe. We are both health professionals and moms and nature lovers and food lovers and love helping women get over dieting and just start living. We think that talking about bodies and perfect bodies and dieting is just boring.
Did we put you to sleep there, Carrie?
Yes. So if you are ready to ditch dieting and get to living and talk about more important things, then you are in the right place. We don't put shame and guilt on the menu here. You don't even have to tip us.
Nope.
Come hang with us. The advice is free. We want to have a bunch of girlfriends to just hang out with and get real with. And it's time to start living, ladies. Hey, Ashley.
Hello, Carrie.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Good. What's on the menu?
Well, we are coming up to resolution season, right?
Yeah.
New year, new you. Let's make those resolutions.
And side note, we can talk about resolutions and we're going to talk about goals also today. So this really does apply all year long, but this is definitely, like Carrie said, the resolution season.
Yeah, when as we're recording it, that's what we're coming up on. But
Mhm.
you're right. This really applies to any year. But we just want to talk and touch on those resolutions because it's so prevalent, right? At the beginning of the year, everyone all of a sudden, like Christmas is over, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, what are you gonna make? What are you gonna resolve to do this coming year? And it's not necessarily a bad thing, like as far as like it's a new year and you think, okay, like this is my year, I'm gonna do what this, and like I'm there with you, right? And certain things in 2024 that each of us and together want to accomplish. The problem comes in when we set these very large resolutions and just resolving, it's very abstract.
Right.
Does that make sense, right?
Yes.
It's like it's not very concrete. We just kind of make this big resolution. This is what I want to do, whether it's lose weight or find a soulmate or whatever it is that you're going to resolve to do.
Declutter my house.
Yes. And then there's no plan for that. You
Right.
just kind of jump into it. Like how many people, gym memberships skyrocket in January because everyone's resolving and they're going to go to the gym, but they're going to go to the gym, 5, 6, 7 days a week. Not very realistic.
Right.
If you're not going at all yet. So what would you say, Ashley, is like, what's your definition of a resolution?
Oh, I was going to ask you that because I don't really know.
I would say it's just kind of like this. I'm going to whatever it is that you say you're going to do, right?
Right.
It's kind of a desire, a wish, a hope.
Right. Oh, I like that hope. That's really, I think, kind of what our point is today. Like, there's no action plan.
Right.
I like that.
It's kind of like, I hope I can do this.
Right.
We kind of jump in with both feet with no real plan.
Right.
And, because this is such a prevalent one. So like exercise, let's say you start going to the gym, well, I'm going to go every day, right? I'm going to go every day to the gym. That's a big one I hear.
Same.
By day 3, one, you're sore, like you're so sore that you can hardly move. So it just sort of peters out. Like the first day you're all gung ho and you got your bag packed the night before and you go and you do it and that felt good. And then the next morning, you might hit snooze once before you get up and go, but you do it. By day 3, it's like you can hardly get out of bed because you're so sore. It's like, I'm going to skip today. right? And it just
Mhm.
sort of peters out because there's no plan and there's no that's just your body's way of like, whoa, like, yeah, you're working muscles you haven't worked before or in a
Yeah.
long time, um, beyond what they're used to being
Right.
worked. And so, yes, you're going to be sore. So it's, the intentions are great, right? Like
Right.
the intentions are good. But without that plan, including a plan to like, okay, what's my plan B?
Yes.
So,
That's what I
right.
was going to mention to you. Yeah, like how we don't make resolutions realistic.
Yes.
We're missing that piece of it. Like real life's going to happen. We're
Hmm.
going to end up skipping a day
Yep.
if we're and the other piece is like the expectations too high. So
Yes.
the realistic part is like going to the gym every day is just
Right.
not going to work
So
for most
ironically,
of us.
this falls under our last topic. Our last
Yes, yes, it
episode.
does.
It's a perfect example of the all or nothing.
Right.
And that's what we do with our resolutions. They're all or nothing. We're either all in on it or, that's why by, the second or third week of January, resolution, what resolution, right? They're not realistic. They don't fit your life. The intentions are good. Like what you want is probably, you know, worth it and is probably something that would add to your life, but they're just they're not realistic to begin with. So
Yeah, we're
probably
kind of like setting ourselves up for failure because
yes,
they're
absolutely.
they're not realistic. And then if you set this big resolution and you're really excited about it, and then it peters out, like Carrie said, then we're left with feeling like crap.
Yeah.
Like we
I
couldn't do this
failed
or
again.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, and then it like Ashley said, it adds to those feelings that you already have. Oh, I couldn't do it yet again. I failed. I suck. What's wrong with me? It's not Nothing's wrong with you. It's just a, a lack of a plan and a strategy.
but that's kind of how we've all learned to do it too. Like
Yeah.
one question we want to talk about was like, why do we even do them?
Yeah. Why?
And I think Carrie said that the intentions are always good. Like
Yeah.
we always, as humans, we tend to want to do things differently than what we're doing because what we're doing isn't where we want to be.
Mhm.
And so the intention is good. Like we want to lower our blood pressure, maybe, or we want to exercise more or whatever. But then, like I said, we kind of set ourselves up for failure. We feel this intense like pressure to be making a resolution in general. Do we need to make a resolution? It seems like everybody's doing it around the first of the year. What do you think, Carrie?
I say we start a new trend.
I agree.
Anti resolutions. Because they don't work. Like Ashley said, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure. What you want is probably good. But there's a better way to get there.
Right. So instead of like a blanket resolution, we can talk about how to make the changes you want to make, but in a different way, like a different mindset of going about it, I guess. Right.
Right. And if you ask yourself, like if you are typically set these resolutions, how has it worked for you in the past? Has it worked for you? Um, and if it has not, then assessing why not, because it's a good chance that the reason is because you didn't have a plan or a
Right.
strategy. It wasn't realistic. It has nothing to do with you and your capabilities or willpower or anything
Right.
like
Or the
that.
follow through, right? Like, oh, I didn't follow through with this.
Right.
Well, that's not necessarily true either.
Right. It's from the start having a
The right
realistic,
tools. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which is what we're here for.
that's right.
We're here to
So
help
that's
have
right. So, Carrie, what if we said instead that we want to set goals?
Okay, so goals, Ash and I were talking about this before. Neither of us likes the SMART goals. And you probably have heard that, the SMART. And it stands for specific, so being specific with your goal. So it's not like some out there like, oh, I would like to, travel the world someday, or I'd like to do more traveling or something. It's specific. Like, if it's travel, I will, plan, I'm gonna vacation in Europe this summer,
Mhm.
like that. Like it's being specific, or getting to the gym. I'm going to exercise 3 times a week, um or if it's a bigger goal, I'm going to maybe do a 5K. So it's something that's specific, right? But then there's measurable. So like, gonna go to the gym 5 days a week or 3 days a week. It's, you can measure it. You can, if you want to get really even more specific with it, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to do cardio exercise, 30 minutes 3 days a week, and strength training 2 days a week. And here are
Mhm.
the days when I do it. Like it's, so it's specific, it's measurable, it's action based. Okay. And this is a big one with goals, that we tend to set goals, you know, and how Ash and I feel about losing weight. I'm going to use it as an example because it's so common.
Mhm.
Um, I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay. All right, great. But that's not actually a goal.
Right.
I want to lower my blood pressure. Awesome. But what do you have to do to get that desire, right? Or that intention? So to lower my blood pressure, to lower my cholesterol, um, to do that 5K, what steps do you have to take to make that happen?
Right. And I feel like that's where a lot of people miss,
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah, because we make it this goal, but it's not behavior based. Your goals need to be behavior based.
Right.
They need to be realistic.
That's the R,
Right.
right? And smart.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And then time based is, so if you set a goal in for a 3-month goal, that's great. But another mistake people make is trying to start at that goal.
Mm,
So, like, if I want to exercise 5 days a week, it's not where you start if you're not exercising at all, right? You don't start at your
right.
end goal. You start where you're at. What is realistic right now? Well, once or twice a week. Perfect.
Definitely.
Let's start there. And get, you get as specific as you want. That will help. Some people rebel against a little bit about like that, right? Like,
Mhm.
well, I don't feel like doing the treadmill today. I want to do weights. Great, then do weights. Right.
Right.
So, but some people, the SMART goals do work for some people. Ashley and I don't love them. Um, Maybe parts of them, components
Right.
to it. But I would rather do like, here's my intention, here's my plan for it, right? Like, and the evidence, there's evidence for and there's evidence against the SMART
Right.
goals, because I think everyone is just different, right? And it works, like I said, it works for some people, it doesn't for others.
And I'm glad that you brought up intentions because I think that sort of the conversation that we're going to build on is the resolutions and the goals are setting specific and usually time specific things to accomplish. And we don't tend to work well with that. And so we're setting ourselves up for that pass fail. Like if we set, oh, I want to run this 5K and this is the date of it,
Mm-hmm.
and we start, but then we don't do it, and then we don't end up running the 5K, again, that failure piece comes in. Whereas intentions have much more flexibility and we can still accomplish things. It's just not going to have that negative mind space of, oh, I couldn't do this.
Right. Which again works for some people. Some people need more
Right.
structure, right? So the SMART goals work for some people. And, if you've got like I work a lot on deadlines. So I have to be a little bit more strict with that time. So at the beginning of the week, I'm like, okay, here's how many deadlines I have to get done or hours I have to get done. So what is my goal for each day, with that number of hours that I want to get in for that? um you know, I have to be stricter with, and there's, and it, that this can change too. Like, so with some things personally, I have to be stricter with myself with, like, I started my next book, but haven't been real strict with myself on sitting down. I'm like, okay, I need to sit down and write an hour a day on my book, right? Like, and I haven't done that. So my intention is great. Yeah, I'm going to write my next book. I started it, but there it is. It's still sitting, right? So it's different. It's different for everyone. It also differs, I think, on the task that you're trying to get
Yeah,
done.
the priorities. Like,
Right.
if you say I'm going to go to the gym for every single day or whatever, well, what happens when you get sick? What happens when something else comes up? That plan B, like, and the flexibility that we're talking about.
Right. Because if, let's say you're going to the gym and let's say you can't get to the gym, you end up with a sick kid or a late work meeting, whatever it is, what is your plan B? Like, you could just skip it for that day, right? And plan it for the next day or a different day. Or is there a way to get some activity in at home or outside? Is having those other options is necessary too for you to be able to accomplish things.
Right. So maybe instead of like, I'm going to go to the gym every day, we could change it to more of that intention about like, I want to move my body most days. And that gives us room for, rest days, which are really important. It gives us room for days when things come up. And it gives us the flexibility to do movement based on how our body feels that day, what type of movement we feel like doing. It gives us the flexibility to say, oh, I planned for this type of movement, but I'm not feeling it today, or I can't today because of whatever reason. And so I'm going to do this other thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then you also, your goals, your action plan may change based on um how getting to your goal is going. For instance, let's say it's your blood pressure and you um you know 3 months into making your changes, your blood pressure either hasn't budged or maybe it's come down a little bit, and you're thinking, well, I've been consistently going, exercising for twice a week. Like, on average, it's twice a week. So I'm going to try to bump it up to 3 times a week, right? To see,
Right.
and then see how that works on your blood pressure. So it can constantly change too. And I think that's one of the thing, people get stuck in the SMART goals and there's no flexibility with them. They get that very rigid
Right.
mindset
The
with them,
all or
right?
nothing. Like,
Yes.
if I am trying to get my blood pressure down through exercise and my plan is to exercise every day, but I can't, so then I'm just going to stop.
Right.
Or, like Carrie said at the beginning, we want to start where we're at instead of our end goal. So maybe the end goal is to exercise 7 days is probably not a good idea for most people in general, depending on what the exercise is, but 5 to 7 days maybe. And we're not going to start there. We're going to start at 1 or 2 a week if we're not doing any exercise.
Right. And also take a look at what else can influence what your desire or goal is, right? In other words, exercise isn't the only thing that influences your blood pressure.
Right.
One, genetics does, right? So there are
Definitely.
some people that, you can exercise till you're blue in the face and do and it's your blood pressure is just, it's genetics, right?
Mhm.
But what are some other areas? And this is true for almost everything. This is
Right.
why, like, taking that holistic viewpoint, um, food and what we eat,
Mhm.
exercise, physical activity, stress,
Stress.
sleep,
Yeah.
right?
All the things we always talk about.
Yes, it always boils down. That's what I always laugh. It's like, oh, when they're pushing, oh, these certain a certain diet for a certain, right? It's like, bottom line is all those things contribute to our health. No
Mhm.
matter whether we're talking heart disease, cancer, diabetes, right? Like, it
Right.
all plays a role in it. So taking care of all of those, so if it's blood pressure you're looking at and you are, let's say you're exercising 4 days a week and you've done it consistently and it's calmed down some, well, what other areas are influencing it? Are you really stressed out? Are you getting enough sleep? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you socializing? We forget sometimes that one, like socialization and being with other people in relationship
Mm-hmm.
is they're finding more and more also influences our health, right?
Right, that connection.
Yes. Like, and we found really that really came into play during COVID when we were isolating
Mm-hmm.
and all the increase in depression and anxiety, people not having that connection. So that's important too, taking a look at like, wow, have I lost some connection with friends, family? Where could, and also like working remotely now, right, is another
Mm-hmm.
big one. So not having human connection can also influence um your health in various ways. Ooh, we went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's okay. We typically do.
So, Ashley, why do you think people are so it, why do we set resolutions?
I feel like it's just the pressure, like, or the tradition. Like, this is what
Mhm,
we all do on January 1st. We
mhm.
take stock, right? And then decide how we want to make things better for ourselves in different areas. And then everyone's doing it. Like, all the marketing around January is, what's your New Year's resolution? It
Mhm.
should be this because of this, or,
Right.
um, yeah, the pressure is real around resolutions.
Yeah, it is for sure. And of course, you have to also take a step back and look at some of the companies that are pushing it,
Yeah,
right?
like
What do
who's
they
benefiting from your resolution?
exactly? Some of them have something to gain monetarily from your resolution, right?
Right.
So,
Especially diet companies. Let's just throw it out
yes.
there
Yes.
because it's not going to be successful long term.
Mm-mm.
So they're creating repeat customers probably.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
And they
frustrating.
know it. That's
Right.
the thing, like they know it. They know what they're doing. So don't fall for it.
That's right.
Don't fall for it.
And it's
Um,
hard not to. It sounds so good.
it
They
does.
have so
Well,
much money to spend on the marketing. It sounds so good.
it does. And it looks like if you read of course it goes so fast if you're like watching TV and it's a commercial, the fine print,
Hmm.
some of them actually lost the weight before
Yeah.
the program, right? And so um it might not even been that specific program. And you don't have any idea how long they have kept it off for.
Right. Which is the whole
Probably not long term.
right.
So that's the whole point that we're trying to make. Like that's so setting resolutions, New Year's, it's exciting and it's kind of sexy and right, like, and it's motivating
Right.
because it's like
Yes.
everyone's on board. We're all going to do this, except that really it's still up to you.
Exactly. Put yourself in the driver's seat.
Right.
You get to
So,
decide.
yes. So we're more about long-term lasting change
Mhm.
instead of just waiting till the first of the year and woohoo, we're going to do this and here we go.
Right.
So, how do we do that?
Well, I think there's a bunch of different types of things that people have been doing, and I feel like it might be more of the minority. Like I've seen a lot of cool things around about words of the year,
Yep.
which are kind of cool.
Hmm.
I also feel like that can set us up for that failure piece too if we're setting like so the idea is to choose a word to like not necessarily live by for the year, but just to kind of keep in the back of your head and help you make choices.
Hmm.
So, I don't know, some people might choose brave, for example. And so when you come to a choice, you can remind yourself, okay, I'm trying to be more brave this year. Which choice will help me with doing that or accomplishing that? So words of the year can be interesting. But again, if we choose ones that are too unrealistic for ourselves, then we're setting ourselves up for that failure piece again.
Mm-hmm. Which failure isn't necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right.
Because we can
Right.
use it as feedback.
Right.
Everyone fails. The greatest entrepreneurs in the world have failed at
Mm-hmm.
businesses over and over again. So failure isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a time, but it's a chance to reflect and assess, okay, what am I doing? And also, if you choose a word like being brave, if brave is your word for the year, that requires you expanding your comfort zone, right?
Right.
Um, and only you can really decide what that comfort zone is.
Right.
And how far you're going to expand it.
Yep.
So sometimes we're too hard on ourselves as far as like, oh, I failed again. But
Right.
stop for a second and take a look back. Like, okay, so let's say like you come to September and you're like, oh, I haven't, even been following. Stop for a second though and look at like the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
How far have you come? Even if it's a step forward, it's something, right? We tend to not give ourselves any credit when the fact is, it's like a parent with a baby. Like you don't see your baby's growth as much as like someone who only sees your baby every few months,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, wow, how much they've grown. Oh yeah, I guess they have, right? It's like it's because sometimes when we're in the middle of it, we don't see it as much. It
Exactly.
requires that stop and take a look. What are you doing differently that maybe a year ago you weren't?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like the word of intention for the year. I don't know what I'm gonna. Do you know what you're gonna choose yet?
No idea. I hadn't even thought about it until we started talking about it. Um, and then other things too that can be helpful are like vision boards, which
Mhm.
can go along with your word. Like you could do it separately, you could do it together.
Yeah.
You could pick your word and then make a collage or whatever, or a Pinterest board or whatever, if you like electronic versus paper,
Mhm.
um, to kind of put some different images on and put it somewhere where you're going to see it.
Yeah. And I actually love the paper version. I know the digital version is easier for some people, but I've taught workshops with the vision boards before, and it was really cool because if you don't know what a vision board is, basically if you take a poster board and you take a bunch of old magazines and catalogs and you just think about what do you want your life to look like? What would you like it, like visually, what would you like it to look like and what would you like in it? And you flip through the catalogs and the magazines and you cut out or you just rip out the pages, at first or whatever. And then you cut the images out that you want, or words also. But the images are tend to be stronger like in our brains. And what's really cool that was unexpected for me was to see how the women, it was almost like they became like little girls again in
Mm,
class. Like they became, because the cutting and pasting, right? Like
right.
when was the last time you did any of that? And also the chance to dream. Like,
Yes.
here's what I want from my, and again, it should be realistic within, but but there's a danger with that too, because when we dream, like if we limit ourselves right to this, oh, it's not realistic, then that's hard to dream beyond that.
Right.
Because if you only stay within your comfort zone, then that's not really the point either. So it's dreaming and allowing these, and there's some cool stories. I think it's John Asseroff is one. He's in the brain changing space, and he's got this really cool story. I'll see if I can find it sometime and we can post it. But just how, people will do these vision boards and years later they'll find them and realize, wow, like this happened. And actually in this one class that I taught, it's an annual ladies getaway, and this woman was in my class the first year I taught it. She did her vision board, and the next year she comes in, and she's grabbing all the materials, and she's like, I need to do another board because everything that I did, man, mine, last year came true. And so it was really cool to see that. But here's the thing with vision boards that some people get mistaken. It's like some people like to call it an action board, because it's not like you just do this vision board and then you sit there and you just hope it happens,
Right,
right?
like an inspiration board.
Yes. Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
Because again, what do you have to do? What do you have to put into action to make it happen?
You got to make that plan.
Yes. Strategy.
Right.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and then just different ways to rewire your brain, right? Which we talk about here and there. One way that I like is through affirmations.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and you can attach certain affirmations to, like, if you do choose a word of the year or an intention for the year or whatever you decide to do, you can pick affirmations that will help match.
Right.
And I think another thing that tends to happen is we tend to forget about this stuff. Like when we started talking about words of the year, I was like, oh yeah, I did pick one this year, but I hadn't thought about it since March probably. And so it's kind of funny to think about, like, almost scheduling yourself a check-in or a reflection, or I don't know, depending on what it is, right? It's for you, so you get to decide how you want to, if you want to. And that's the cool part about being in the driver's seat. Like, do I really want this to happen? And if I do, then I need to make my plan. I need to implement the plan. I need to do the things. I also need to check in about it.
Yeah. Well, I think to make it intentional.
Exactly.
Right. If you have a word of intention, you need to make it intentional. You need to keep it front and center. So it's like,
Right.
rather than making a vision board or choosing a word and just kind of like, then it goes away, putting it front and center. Put your vision board where you're going to see it every time. If you've got a desk that you work at every day, put the vision board, hang it there, or put it on your refrigerator, or wherever you're going to see it, in your bathroom. And your word of intention, make it front and center. Don't just think about it. Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna choose my word, and it's brave, and then that's the last time you think about it. Right? That's not a word of intention. You need to be intentional with your word of intention. So put it on, write it down, journal about it. Think about that, each day or most days, like what did I do today that was brave? That's gonna be different for everyone. Like some people have no problem, like public speaking, that some people are scared to death to do that. Other people, like, I love getting up in front. If I know what I'm teaching, if it's not just like off the cuff or whatever, I love that's like in my comfort zone. And for other people, that's not. So it's being brave is going to be different for everyone. Sometimes, like for me personally, being brave would be having more of a one-on-one with someone, right? And talking to them about having a hard conversation with someone. That's harder for me than getting up. I can speak to, I don't care how many people it is, if it's more than one or teaching or whatever, like I'm cool with that. But being brave, so how was I brave today or this week? Whatever you want to do, like Ashley said, do a check-in every now and then, but make it frequently enough so that it's still at the top of your head.
Right.
And in front of you. I recommend writing it down. Remember, the more senses you get into that. And also, if you're journaling about it, well, how did that feel? How did that feel to be brave? It was scary as heck, but I did it, right? Like, being brave doesn't mean a lack of fear. It means doing it despite being afraid.
Right.
So having a realistic view of it and giving yourself credit for the little wins.
Ooh, that's something we talk about a lot. Yes. I feel like so many of us, like we said, we're in our brain every day, so we don't see our growth. We don't see our, changes. We tend to discredit those.
Mhm.
I think that almost every client I see, they're like, "Oh, I didn't really do much since last time we talked." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's chat about it." And then by the end, I'm counting up, you change these 3 things, like
Right.
you're doing it. And we just don't
Exactly.
see it for ourselves. And
Right.
we tend to be wired towards the negative, like we talked about in the all or nothing episode last time. And so it's hard for us to take the credit.
Right. Absolutely. And I think also, like we're talking about, like if you're so used to dieting and you are tempted, for example, to set a weight loss goal or dieting goal, whatever it is, anything related to weight loss for your resolution, and let's say you choose brave as your word for this year, it can be pretty dang brave of you because it's scary if you are used to having dieting as sort of your safety net, and that's just what you're used to because you want that, um you want that you quote unquote control, you want that structure, you whatever it is, whatever your right reasons are behind dieting, because it's more than just about the weight loss, right? The reasons you diet go beyond
Right.
just wanting to lose
Way
weight.
beyond.
Yeah. So being brave and going without that diet structure, without that, just tell me what to eat, right? Um, that can be brave
Right.
for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And so there's different, the your word of intention, look for different ways that it applies to your life.
Definitely. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up. That was such a, I think, helpful thing because we're all going to be faced with it soon.
Mhm. Yep.
And it's easy for us to be like, just do this. But
Hmm.
how do people actually do it? And I think that we did give some really good tips and suggestions. But if you want more, we have a little group meeting every month
Mm.
for our pod squad.
Oh,
And
squad.
in our January one, um, this is probably basically what we're going to be talking about, right? Like, because it's right at the beginning of the month, which is working out perfectly. We're talking about all things resolutions, goals. How are you doing? What's your plan? All of that. So
Mhm.
check that out. Come hang with us.
Yes, for sure. So non-diet related goals
Hmm.
and right
Yeah.
resolutions. So just remember what do I have to do to meet my desire, my
Right.
goal, my
And
intention?
like we said, it doesn't have, you don't start with the end, like
Mm,
the end. You start with small steps to get there. I
right.
think that's another piece, that all or nothing again. Like we're
Mhm.
either gung ho and doing all of it or
Mhm.
none of it. And instead focusing on those really small steps to get
Right.
to the goal
Right.
is what is really that sustainable piece.
Right. And think about, so the resolutions, they peter out in 2 or 3 weeks, right? And then the next year you're trying to set the same exact resolution. It's
Mm-hmm.
that constant cycle. What are you expecting to be different? It's
Right.
We keep blaming ourselves. No, it's not you. It's it's the resolution
Right.
that
It's
you're
how we've
set.
set the resolution system up. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and is it your choice? Yes, it is your choice and responsibility to make a different choice,
Mm-hmm.
and to do it differently. And wouldn't you rather, like a year from now, look back and be like, wow, like I'm not maybe where I want to be exactly. Again, careful about that perfectionist
Mm-hmm.
wording, right? But maybe I'm not quite as far as I was hoping to be, but I am further than I was,
Right.
which is further than I have been in the last 10 years or whatever, right? Like those resolutions, just they don't stick. There's no there's no stickiness to them.
The adhesive wore right off.
There's no Velcro, there's no glue, there are no sticky notes. They're not They're not
And then they
sticky,
just fly off and land in the trash somewhere.
right? Out into oblivion. They're gone. So why not do something different this year?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it. And you're not
Yeah.
alone either.
No,
Like social media would have you think like, oh, you're gonna be the only one, not right. Like, no, there's lots of us. Because so come join us and keep listening to our podcast, join our pod squad. We would love to have you. And yeah, let's get this.
definitely.
Do it. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we'll chat next time, I guess. We'll see you around. We're on the social media, like Carrie said. Come hang with us in the pod squad. Let us know if you have questions. Love to hear that too.
Yes, we would. Questions, comments. We welcome all of it.
Definitely.
So until next time, love you,
Love you,
latte.
latte.